Heroes and Legends, Dynasties, Space Mercenaries, across the new cosmos of this universe, there lied a certain group of hired mercenaries. They were hired universal guns that fought for profit and had lots of business in the new chaos. They fought for many smaller powers who would ask and pay for their assistance against larger forces. This force was led by Heiser, a 29-year-old violent man who had amassed a large force and large battleships that circled the universe in his quest for wealth, fame, glory, and most of all, pure violence. But the heir to his success was not because of pure strength or ravaged rage, but he had his dear friend, Amber Reed, a 23-year-old genius who was responsible for organizing the accounts, the money, the weaponry, and technology that this space mercenary group needed in order to make a name for itself. In the age of chaos, the space mercenaries will go out on an adventure to the insurance galaxy, where onset of war between rival powers in different galaxies fought for supremacy and fought for control to see who would be the next ruler of the universe. Such insurance that asked for their assistance were the small advantage insurance, who in their history made little dents in history. However, they were still strong, but not strong enough against the growing and increasing threat of the old ancient powerhouses of yesterday, now awoken like a bear out of hibernation. The advantage insurer were being led by the wimpy Helix Advantage. He was very whiny and always complained. Now, the feared Thinkalo had risen up again. Helix was scared, and he wanted Heiser to help him. His wife, Basil Advantage, who only married him for power, was complex. She didn't want him to spend large amounts of money to Heiser to defend the galaxy which her husband should have been able to defend. However, the Advantage had one powerful asset that made them stand out. They had a powerful fighter named Rio. He was a top fighter and renowned throughout the galaxy, and led his men to standoffs against the enemies. Thus, the Advantage would not yet swallow up. However, the rivals, the Kinkolo, that great ancient insurance power, had risen up again and was advancing to conquer the Advantage in order to grow their base and spread the power. And so, Helix had no choice but to hire Heiser, who was itching for a fight. Amber Reed then assured Miss Brazil that the funds would not be as high as she was fearing, saying the state of the situation, they should be more than grateful for the space mercenaries were cutting them some slack, since their galaxy was on the brink of total collapse. However, Rio was able to fight and thought he did not need the space mercenaries, but Heiser assured him that if they work together, then they overcome. The King Kolo were led by the brilliant mind of Ian and his brother Anfrey, along with others. Shanae Kelly of the Kelly clan and Morat and the Shan were all there, itching for a fight. Morat was the tech captain of the King Kolo and used powerful artillery and cannons in order to bombard the defenses of their advantage. The advantage were indeed on a great disadvantage, and so they were struggling. Then the Afro diva herself, Lashan, went inside doing twirls and backflips, getting through enemy bombardments and cannon fire, and able to get in enemy lines and did slash in half troops and artillery and controls. Amber Reed was very complex about how fast and powerful the enemy was. She needed to come up with a way to beat back the King Color. Ian was using the full capabilities of the King Colo and the individual officers and their strengths to his advantage. And Shani Kelly of the Kelly clan moved their forces of the Prague warriors for the King Colo and marched forward to the front. Rio went up to meet with Shani and held back the King Colo. Then Amber Reed had a plan. If Ian is using the best of the abilities of their forces, then she should do likewise. So she told Heiser to go forward and lead his men to stop the enemy advance. Heiser then used his might and displayed on the battlefield to destroy the enemy bombardments and cannons and the like. Helix then ordered his troops to follow Heiser's lead and the mercenaries, and they rallied the forces. Nashan, seeing the big stature of Heiser, knew she stood no chance, and so she went after Amber Reed. But Brazil advantage surprisingly showed up in the battlefield and pushed Lashan back. She did not expect this, as Brazil herself brought troops with her, and so Lashan retreated from the front lines. Ian was stunned, and his brother Anthony knew that he had to protect them. Soon the battle was in a dead heat, but at the end, the King Carlos reserves were running out, as the Space Mercenaries had found a supply depot and stole their rations. With that, they could not continue the campaign and decided to cancel it, and for now at least. With that, the advantage issue survived for another day, but however, a second one would seal their fate. Elsewhere, the battles are raging across the universe. For this next battle, Amber took to the battlefield herself, without Heiser, as she needed to use her wisdom to aid the universal forces of the Fidel and the Bankeran. Fidel Bankeran against the dimensional foes in the Civil War. But you see, the Fidels, who were the Bankeran who were supposed to lead Linda's plan to overthrow the builder that the royals did, and thrust into a civil war. The dimensional Fidels, led by Frederick and Betha, who became his girlfriend, were at odds with Mirando, the loyal leader to Linda, who was waiting for her return, along with Dana, his bodyguard. They had a disagreement. For the Fidels and the Dimensions were originally from the Dimensions and did not originate with Linda's forces, but joined him because of camaraderie during the Holy War in the Dimensions. However, they had a disagreement, and the Dimensional Fidel forces and the Universal Fidel forces had a civil war to determine who would control the galaxy in order to invade other galaxies. So, or not to invade other galaxies. So the Dimensions did not want to invade, the Universal forces wanted to invade. And so Amber went to aid the Universal Fidels. The Dimensional Fidels were battle hardened from their years of fighting, and the Universal Fidels were just awaiting to fight. However, Amber used shrewd tactics in displaying many decoys in the battlefield, confusing Frederick, thinking that he was attacking Arado, but he was attacking holograms, which exacerbated his forces and drained his resources. in their surprise siege on the main capital of the Fedelian Universal Castle in their galaxy. And so with that, Frederick was advised by Bedford they should retreat for now, for they have someone smart and brilliant, and they don't want to get caught up because they have to maintain the war and their stance in the galaxy the one they take it. And so the Fidels could live in peace and not in war. And so they retreated, and Amber's quick thinking had allowed the Universal Fidels to survive. And she left them, got a reward, and the Civil War continued. Elsewhere in the ravaged war of the universe, the Civic and the Bank Run were active. Heiser was entrusted to act as a decoy for the forces that were led by Lash, the super spy who wanted to sneak into Ovishian territory in their galaxy that the Ovishians hold to gain necessary technologies for their future projects and experiments and their mission. And so Heiser was hired with the Space Mercenaries to act as a strong arm to distract the Almalo family, the crime mafia family of the Ovishians who were guarding that particular base. Along with Heiser, he had to work with Jacques, the giant of Sibit, who was very rich, one of the richest people in the galaxy that actually was from that galaxy, and also Denny, who was a mage, who wasn't originally from the galaxy, but settled there because she liked the atmosphere, and a great swordsman named Borak. He was the last of the Crimson Swordsmen of the Civic, or you could say the last of the great warriors of the Civic Bankeron, as many of these galaxies who had risen up in war after the fall of the Build Run were at their wits' end, and many heroes and will to fight, for many of them were waning because of the long era of peace and stability and being non-effective in the wars of the universe. But anyway, the Orishians were being led by the Amaro family, Sharon Amaro, who was the Black Sword boss. He had this powerful black sword and was instrumental during the Holy War and the final clash, which his black sword is the ability of the black aura and used to confuse the enemies and weaken them and blind them and all different stuff. And he was basically in the universal underworld dealing with illegal weapons and all kind of illicit crimes in order to benefit the overall Ovishian Empire. And his right hand and one of his last surviving people from his original force, Seville, was alive, and she had the power of great speed, so she was the speedy, zipping and ziplining across the battlefield. She proved very problematic for Heiser, who was not used to a fast woman like this, and so he had a hard time trying to catch up. And while he was doing this, the other Almalo family, Sivana, who was actually the cousin of Sharon, and her son, Xavier Orlando, the two Alamano families' forces had joined as one, and they came as an ambush. Then Jacques and Denny had to work together to beat them back. And then suddenly the new player of the Almalo, Homer, who was known as the Enforcer, was coming, and he was going to deal a heavy blow to Lash and kill him before he reached his mission. However, the Crimson Swordman, Baruch, used his powerful sword and started slashing away at the battlefield. His quickness cut down many of the Civic's foes of the Orishians and pushed Homer back, who was quite stunned by the swordsman's blade. And during the slashing, Baruch hit a hit over a oil tanker, which a lot of spilled a lot of oil on the ground. And Siva, being very fast, speed past the oil, and flames came by. And so she had to jump and stop and get away from the oil, and else she would have been burnt. This gave Heiser a chance to finally grab her from the air and pull her driver into the ground, which knocked her out. And then he ordered his forces to continue to fight, and the Erythrians were fighting. And then Sharon Amala with his black sword and Baruch with his crimson sword clashed, and it was a mighty clash. And while all this was going on, Nash was able to go into the fort that the Erythrians were guarding and was able to achieve his goal and get what they were after. Soon, the Civic led a retreat, and the Space Mercenaries retreated as well in their ship. With that, the battle was won. Heiser was rewarded, and him and Amber will then join up. Things were going good. The chaos abounded. The Space Mercenaries were being hired and recognized. However, one thing ticked off Heiser more than anything else. It was the elders. Because you see, he hated the elder forces, for they were now spreading love and peace in the universe and making amends for all the times people were fighting each other and bringing people to Christ and making them saved. Of us didn't fight each other, wanted to fight each other. So most of the universe was quiet. Only certain powers, mainly the Insurance galaxies, the Bankron galaxies, the Rishian, the Elders, the Oberon, the Jedi, and the expected allies around that orbit were fighting. So it cut down on what the Space Mercenaries could have had, a universal-wide war and chaos. These elders were making dents in his pockets, and he felt it over time as more and more powers grew stronger, and they didn't need the Space Mercenaries anymore like that. Heiser ordered Amber Reed to figure out a way to find the elder forces who were responsible for preaching this gospel of good news, love, and peace that was eating away at his peace of mind, his wallet. Amber Reed took some time and found out where they were. However, when he confronted the elder forces, mainly John the scribe and Hewlin, the prayer warrior of the elders, these guys did not fight, but one was a prayer warrior, one was a reader of the word. That was their mission. They did not fight. However, their ship was intercepted, but they were being guarded by two brave elders, elder warriors. That was of Raphael Stone and Addison Press. And these two next generation of elder warriors confronted Heiser and his Space Mercenaries as they tried to invade their ship. However, Heiser would get the shock of his life. He did not realize how strong these elders were. And with Hewlin giving prayers and John reading encouraging scriptures, it powered up the two young elder warriors, and they beat back Heiser, beating him so and giving him a great humiliation. With this embarrassment, Heiser decided to slip away into the darkness of space for a time. Now we head to the alternative.